Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Rachel Freeman's Hours live show. Oh my gosh, if there are meant to be some tech issues, it is going to be tonight. So we are going to roll with this. If someone would just put in the comments, make sure to tell me that you can hear me and that you can see me. That would be so wonderful. Tonight's topic is a little bit different, and it's come to me because it has been a topic that I've heard a lot about in different circles that I'm associated with. It's come up a lot with my clients. And, here on the Rachel Freeman's Hours live show and just in general with myself, I'm always wanting to make sure that I talk about some of the things that are more difficult to talk about. And ones I often include emotions that are really kind of keeping us in a certain spot. And so this topic of authenticity, risk or reward came up for me because a lot of times I hear if you're a female entrepreneur and you have been on video before and, there's a way that even culturally we're supposed to be presenting ourselves, and especially if we're in business or entrepreneurs, or if you've been in the corporate world before, you're supposed to be professional. You're supposed to come across in a certain way. So if you have heard any of these things or thought any of these things on your own as a female entrepreneur, put yes in the comments. Let me know. Give me hearts and thumbs up, because what I'm really wanting to do is tonight to make this really applicable. So I've already mentioned before, I've seen this with a lot of women who come from corporate America and who want to start a business, but the environment and the way that we have been cultured to work and feel about ourselves as women, just in general, is very much how we've been trained to be in a patterned way of being. So then when we decide to do something else, and that is then authentic to us, we're really separating ourselves from something that we consider to be safety. If this makes sense, please make sure to comment. The other reason is I've heard someone say recently, and this came across more than one time, is that I'm afraid that when I show up on video again, or show up on video for the first time in a long time, people will only remember me for how I was before. And as we talk about these kinds of things in a way of being, the goal, I believe, of most people is to experience some self-growth. And when we do that, naturally we change, naturally we shift, naturally things become different for us. We view things differently. I mean, just think of the time that you viewed something when you were a teenager and how differently you may view it now today. And that's because you get experience, you gain experience, you get more knowledge, more education. And when we do those things, we can all sometimes feel shame, embarrassment, and guilt for the way that we have behaved or the things that we have done before. Now, when we show up, it is a risk. But what I want to tell you is that it doesn't need to feel risky. Another example that came across in this risk or reward, if I show up and I speak my truth and I give my knowledge and I try to help people, will they believe it's enough? Will they believe that I'm qualified enough? Will they think I'm too old, too young? I don't have corporate experience, or, now I'm really interested in being this spiritual coach, but I haven't ever done this stuff before. And maybe you're hearing a little bit of a theme here. And the theme is like imposter syndrome. I was talking to a 17-year-old girl earlier today, and she was struggling with how she couldn't be herself around her friends, and how she felt like she had to react to them in a certain way and be with them in a certain way so that she didn't feel rejected, so that she didn't feel like she was an outsider or wasn't accepted. And I want you to notice how sometimes even we as grown women, and I'll be the first one to admit it, I still have those thoughts. And when I thought about this topic of authenticity, there's a lot of words that's like, be yourself, be authentic, show up as the true you. And before I was like, oh, hell no, I'm not doing that. My life has taught me that I'm too sensitive. My life has taught me that I shouldn't, do these things or do that, or be too loud or be too excited, or any of the things that you were told. and how we see this as cultural influences in our lives. Now, it doesn't mean you can't do anything about it. That's the beauty of it. The beauty is that we can, and especially if we're aware of it. So maybe you're like, okay, Rachel, I'm a female entrepreneur. I've used videos sometimes. Yeah, it was fine, but I'm not using it to the extent that I want in my business because I'm afraid. There's nothing wrong with being afraid. So I'm just going to put that out there. And it's not like you have to push through anyway. It's not always where, push the button anyway, push the live button and just get on camera, just get it over with. Sometimes that can be a solution. But the majority of the time, if you move through the process of what you need to move through, it's a lasting feeling that you have. So now you can know that, yes, I'm live on YouTube and Facebook right now, and there could be someone that doesn't agree with me. And that's okay, because that's not threatening who I am or what I do. So it's a risk, yes. And yet I don't know if I would want to be doing anything else right now except being here with all of you. So tell me if this is making sense in the comments. Tell me what you're gathering from this. And if you're a female entrepreneur who is wanting to use video to the fullest, because the risk of being authentic sounds a lot like imposter syndrome, right? So we become what we think. There's a lot of big names in the online world right now. And when we look to people who we think know more about us or our business than we do, and we try and be like them, or we try and mimic their marketing techniques, or we try and mimic their words, it just maybe doesn't ever really fit. And that's where I've found myself recently, looking for guidance. And what really happens is that I'm in charge of my own voice. And when I show up authentically here with all of you, that is really when people get the most benefit out of what is happening, out of my thoughts. It really also helps me continue to kind of buck this system that you have to do things in a certain way for you to be successful. And oftentimes, I don't know about you, but there have been times in my career and even recently, like, what am I doing wrong? What do they have that I don't have? And the fact of the matter is they don't have anything that I don't have. It's just that I'm not acknowledging my authentic way of doing things, my way of being, the thing that plays into my strengths. Now, I'm not saying there aren't techniques that can help each and every one of us, but the important part is to take those techniques and look at them and how they access your strengths. Because then being authentic no longer is a risk. The other thing that needs to happen, if it feels too risky to be you, you need to grow your internal confidence. You need to grow your internal knowing. I was speaking with this about a woman today, and it's so funny because my wife, Veronica, says, because we share offices, and she's like, do you find yourself saying the same thing to a lot of your clients? And the answer is yes. Because we're all human. These are all very human conditions that people are struggling with right now. And one of them is that women becoming their own voice in self-advocacy and really truly being able to show up and be themselves in this internal way of knowing yourself is the key. Now, if you're not sure what that looks like for you, I would love to have you reach out to me. You can go and schedule a free 20-minute consultation with me, and we can discuss what that looks like so that you can move through the stages that are necessary so you can go from it feels too risky, I'm afraid of rejection, I'm going to push the button anyway, but my heart is still pounding. This is what I got to do. I'm just going to push through it. And instead, you'll be able to say, hey, listen, I see that. I see that fear of rejection. I see that fear that if I am my authentic self, someone will say something about me or to me, even online world, like it has happened to me, or they'll protest maybe like against you, say something on your social media or whatever. But the fact of the matter is that will happen anyway. You can't control that. But if that's what I focus on, don't forget that's the reticular activation system saying that this is always going to be that result, which then keeps you small, which keeps you hidden back away from really being the woman you want to be in the world. and trusting yourself. This internal knowing helps you trust yourself. So what is the answer then? Well, the answer is learning more about yourself. It's acknowledging that there are things that you have done, that you have thought, that you have seen, or whatever, that may not be the highlights of your life, but that can be instrumental in showing you how you truly want to be in the world and how you want to show up for those people that are waiting for you. Right? You know, I have a friend, her name is Deb Peel. She does this hiking thing and she takes women hiking. I mean, like, these are really deep ways of people communicating with themselves, right? So you're going to get to know yourself. You're going to learn what those stages are for you. So you're not just pushing and muscling through all the time, but you can say, I see you, self-doubt. Thank you very much for letting me know that you're still around. And what I'm going to do instead is I'm going to go ahead and trust myself over here. I had a client earlier say to me, so funny. She's like, I'm afraid to say that I want more time because everything literally that I speak, I am getting. And it was so funny because her business is exploding. Things are going really well for her. And literally every time she speaks something into a reality verbally, it literally happens for her. So she's like, I don't want things to slow down, because she wants to implement some foundational systems so that she slows down a minute in order to be able to speed up and have this efficiency and really care for her clients the way that she wants to. So if we're thinking either I feel totally comfortable on camera or I feel totally uncomfortable and it's a huge risk for me and I don't know if I'm going to make it through, there's some playroom in between those two options. Recognizing and knowing how you want to interact and be in the world, how you want to be showing up no matter what is going on, is the second thing you can do. That comes from knowing yourself. Now then, you're able to make these choices and say, I want to go live today. And I am going to release all of that self-doubt. And I'm going to say, I see you and I hear you. And I'm going to train my mind and my body to know that it's okay for me to show up. I can't tell you how many times I was scared shitless in front of the camera. And no one even watched my videos back then. I wasn't going around town or in places where people like, hey, Rachel Freeman Sowers, or hey, aren't you Rachel Freeman Sowers? Or, you know, it wasn't going like that for me. I was literally in my office, in my house, trying to shoot this video and not be afraid. But when I acknowledged that fear and I said, thank you very much for that, and I'm safe, so I'm going to come over here and I'm going to do this thing, I'm so glad I did. Again, if you want to be on that journey, if you're really looking to be able to show up in your life and especially your business authentically, 3 things are going to be able to happen for you. What's going to happen is that you're going to start attracting the exact right people that are meant for you to attract. Because if I try and be Amy Porterfield, or if I try and be, I don't know who else is famous out there, James Wedmore, Jenna Kutcher, like if I try and be any of those people, I'm attracting the wrong people to my business. But when I'm emotional, when I'm vulnerable, and when I show strength, women know I can walk them through that process. So when you know yourself, you decide your way of being, and then you make those choices that will allow you to continue to be that way. And then you start attracting those people. You start waking up in the morning knowing that you're true to yourself and that you begin to trust yourself ultimately. There's no question. My client said today, she's like, you know, I didn't know why these things were happening and I was getting worked up about it. But now that all this is over, I can see the reason why that's happened. So it's more of living in that unknown. I can wake up knowing that I'm fine and safe just where I'm at, and that every time that I show up, it is the me, truest me. There's been a lot of stuff online too lately about people who have shown up, and I don't know if you've been watching it, but people who have shown up and incidentally showed who they really were and disconnected themselves from their audience. Right? And so I'm here to be able to wake up every single day and go to bed every single night saying I did the best I can as me. Right? It's not that it's not scary. It's that my mission is greater than my fear. And then what is a greater reward? What is a greater reward to know that you don't have to deserve to be here? You don't have to earn your right to be here. You know, you were created to be here. And how we choose to interact is then the blessing of life, the fulfillment of life, the contentment of life. So hopefully some of this made sense to some of you. It wasn't very scripted tonight, and I did that on purpose because I wanted to speak more from my heart, from the things I've been seeing. And if you want to be on this journey to showing up as yourself, unapologetically and humbly and ready to make the impact that you're wanting to make, I would love to speak with you. You can also go to my website at www.rachelfreemansowers.com and look at my one-on-one coaching program called Visible with Video Accelerator. We've made some really cool changes. It's a 6-month program now. It gives women a longer time to really create these shifts and solidify their signature video style, solidify all of the ways that they want to be interacting and really reaching the people that they want to reach and help, because there are people waiting to hear your voice. They're waiting to hear from you. And I want to help you get your voice out there and make this greater, massive, positive impact. So if you know anyone that's looking for this kind of help and this kind of work, I would love to have a referral also. And I think that that will be the end for tonight. I really appreciate all of you showing up here and being with me. And thanks, Kimberly, for commenting that it makes perfect sense. Sometimes I'm not really sure. I talk for a living. It makes sense to me, but not sure if it's making sense to everybody else. So I hope that you all have a wonderful rest of your evening. As I say at the end of every single video, make sure to stay true to yourself, be kind to others, and always, always, always honor the wise one that is within you. I cannot wait to see you show up as you on video. I'll talk to you all next week. Bye.